Discuss the impact of World War I on the Ottoman Empire and the greater Middle Eastern region. I'm joined now by historian Vehbi Baysan. Thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Talk to us a bit about the events leading up to the Ottoman Empire's participation in World War I.
Well, actually, final years of Ottoman Empire was in almost turmoil because in 1908, the mighty Sultan Abdulhamid was deposed and replaced by the Sultan Reshad V, Mehmed Reshad V. But thereafter, we have the Balkan Wars. And immediately after that, in 1913, the Enver Pasha takes over as a war minister because the Second Balkan War started. But what actually made a really historical turning point for Ottoman Empire was the two boats, German boats, escaping from British and France. They entered Agency and eventually to Marmara. Actually, when these Allied forces claimed them back, Turks said that actually we bought them. But these two, Yavuz and Midilli, they named after later that, they went and bombed Russian ports, namely the Sevastopol, and that effectively made Ottoman Empire part of World War I, which very much paved end of it.
Right, exactly. World War I brought about the end of the Ottoman Empire. How did World War I shape the region and Turkey, the modern Turkey that we know today?
Well, actually, no one ever in the world thought that this war would be lasting 4 years and having this many casualties, like up to 15 million civilians and soldiers alike, and actually destroyed Europe and Middle East. But that also marks end of empires like Austro-Hungarian Empire, as well as Russian Empire and Ottoman Empire. They all collapsed and replaced by smaller nation states. And among them is establishment of modern Turkey. But actually, when the war ended in 1918, we have this really like legendary battle of Gallipoli. Turks actually prevented Allied forces entering Istanbul, but they couldn't prevent collapse of the empire.
Okay, we were just going to take a brief pause here as we have the Turkish president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, is arriving in Paris for those commemorative events that are taking place there in France. He's shaking the hand right now of the French president, Emmanuel Macron, the French president's wife, Brigitte Macron, Turkish President Erdogan's wife, Emine, at his side there, taking part in the commemorative events in Paris today to mark the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. All right, let's get back to historian Vehbi Baysan, who's with me in the studio today as we're looking at those images of the Turkish president. How do you think World War I shaped the future of modern Turkey, and as well as influencing culture and politics?
Well, indeed. So let's continue. The Istanbul was occupied in 1918. That came as a big trauma, and Turks still carry that. But that also in 1919 sparked the first war of independence, when the founder of modern Turkey, we just commemorated his death in 10th of November, actually started by going to Samsun in May 1919. So that struggle continued until 1923, when actually modern Turkey was established. But a year before that, in 1922, officially the Sultanate was abolished, and a year later, Republic was declared.
How do you feel people in Turkey think about World War I? Because World War I was the Great War. It was supposed to be the war to end all wars, but of course it wasn't. World War II came later, but Turkey didn't participate in World War II. So do you think World War I resonates with people more here because of that?
Well, indeed, because I think skillfully and successfully Turkish leadership avoided entering the war, bearing in mind that actually the war was so close to us, all the way to Bulgaria and Greece. They all got involved into that, and they were devastated. So I think Turkish nation is very much thankful. At that time, I'm sure they went through extreme hardship, because nevertheless the army and whatever we have had to be resorted for them. But also, we didn't have the dynamics of the World War I. In the World War I, probably for the Ottoman Empire, it was inevitable because you have the Russia front. So you cannot really stay immune and save yourself and territory, especially, as I said, it was the end of empires. So I think World War I, by not participating, Turkey saved a great deal of its energy for investing for democracy and multi-party system, etc. And that's why we talked so much about the World War I, but not World War II.
Right. All right, Vehbi Baysan, thank you so much for an interesting discussion.